4.
5.
Well, I'm just saying, how many Easter eggs I had? You had 5 Easter eggs? Yeah, fat son of a.
Well, I was.
Just started trying 4. See what you're saying.
Or a golf ball was coming. It was either that or a golf ball was coming to my head. So,
happy Easter to you, Easy E. How are things?
Man, I'm looking at my belly here. It's not a pretty sight. Not pretty at all.
Sure, look, it's Easter. You deserve it.
It is Easter, but I don't think my body deserved what I did to it. I ate a whole tray of, do you know those Cadbury milk tray? I ate a whole tray of it. That was before my Easter egg. That was Saturday.
Fair enough.
Man. Yeah, sure. Look, put it into my fitness pal, and the results were not pretty.
Why would you do that to yourself? Why would you even look at the calories? Just accept it. I mean, like, I saw this thing on the Irish Independent. It was like, looking for the healthiest Easter egg. And I'm like, people aren't getting fat over having Easter eggs once or twice a year. I think it's a lot of the other 364 days, the other 51 weeks in the year and it happens. So it's kind of like, if you have this Easter egg, you have to do 2 hours of sit-ups. And I'm like, hang on a second. If I attempt 2 hours of sit-ups and The Rock attempts 2 hours sit-ups, he's getting a lot more sit-ups and burning a lot more calories in than I am. So stop with that nonsense. But like, all in moderation anyway. Well, a good weekend with that. But just before we get into the intro, into today's podcast episode, we got a couple of things just to try out really quick. One, these both things are on our previous guests. One, Dara O'Brien, Barrow Valley runner, has picked the date. It is June 26th for his 120k Barrow Valley run, I should say. And so it's June 26th. He's doing it for raising awareness for autism. And if you check out barrowvalleyrunner.ie, you get all the details. Let me just double check that website before we get going. Yeah, barrowvalleyrunner.ie. You check all the details there, how to donate and everything else that goes with it. So we want to say shout out to Dara. Best of luck with that challenge coming up June 26th. Better get me on with a run and go before then to feel better about it. And the other shout out we have to give is to Conor Jameson, who finished out of 116 people in Ireland. He finished number 1 in the 2021 CrossFit Games men equipment free competition. Number 1 out of 116 and number 8 overall out of 2,895 people. That deserves a build of us right there. Unbelievable work, Conor.
Hello, Conor. Super work. To be honest, though, even though you've said it, I didn't really doubt it. I'm not surprised. I don't know if that's a compliment to him, but I'm just not surprised. I'm like, no, I expected it. No, he's a phenomenal person. It's absolutely brilliant. Well done, Conor.
It's like what you hear with David Goggins.
We're looking forward to it.
100%. It's like we hear about David Goggins who's doing so well in the ultramarathon. He's like, of course he did. He's the Irish David Goggins. When I heard him talk to said to him when we had the podcast a couple of weeks, so I 100% believe he did so well. So congrats to both you guys. 100%. And with that said, guys, let's hit the intro music and we're going to talk more about our people who listen to this podcast in this week's episode of Any Given Run Day. So this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast, it is a complete first. We were supposed to have a guest on. We messed up our scheduling, so that guest will be on next week. We've actually got a couple of different guests lined up over the next couple of weeks. You'll be glad to hear. So while you might get sick of hearing about me and Eric, just bear with us on it. And after that, we'll have a couple of guests on the next couple of weeks. So what we did was Eric's put up the L, Paul's up for the bear with us. Anyway, what we're going to do is we sent out an Instagram story. We sent out an Instagram story and we sent out a message on our Any Given Run Day Run Club asking for different questions. And I'm not going to lie, Eric, I was kind of worried we just get crickets back. But thankfully, we've got a fair few questions in this week.
I actually didn't think anyone really listened to us, to be honest. I know we see the downloads, but I just thought it was me downloading, deleting, downloading. But, yeah, we actually got a good few answers. Some of which we actually did a little bit of planning, and a couple of our guests are actually going to, some of the stuff that people are asking on, it's going to be an episode in themselves with a couple of guests actually in the weeks to come. So, but we'll try and touch on it as we go. But yeah, some people asking a lot of difficult questions.
100%.
Wanted to see more Louisa, less Aussie, which I thought, probably a fair statement.
We can't argue that. Well. I really want to hear about that whole Alan Head and Misen Head.
Expect a call.
100%. With that said, guys,
people what they want.
The people ask, the people get. With that said, guys, we'll go straight into the questions we have. So the first one is actually from Dara on the Any Given Run Day Run Club. So he says, I I'd be interested in hearing, Big. You have any thoughts on why some people are more morning runners and others are evening runners? I'm a morning runner, and I actually find it really difficult to run later on in the day. It feels really labored. I hear others say the total opposite and wonder if there's any physical reason for it, and can you change it? It'll be a great deal if I could run the odd evening run without feeling like death. Are you a morning or evening runner, Eric?
Morning.
Same.
Yeah, morning runner. Yeah.
I find with this one,
the reasons for me.
Yeah.
Go on. Yeah.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, you've started. The reasons for you.
Go. I'm only going. One was food.
Right.
By the time the evening comes around, I'm after having like 3 meals that wouldn't necessarily be suited to going for a run that evening, if that makes sense. So I'd feel quite sluggish when I go for a run, and I feel quite labored. That to me is one of the reasons. Whereas before I'd go for a run in the morning, I'd have my banana, small bit of muesli, yogurt. I'd do my stretches half hour later, then I'm ready to go, and it's not really sitting in my stomach. I'm not feeling the chicken curry and rice, or I'm not feeling it. I'm feeling somewhat fresh. But not only that, I kind of enjoy the luxury, I think, mentally, of finishing a run early, because if I finish my 2-hour run by 11 o'clock, I've still the option to go back to bed till 12. And it'd be considered normal. I've more workout done than most of the world has even woke up on the weekend. So I think that's for me why, like, there's a lot more of the day then. And I think life then kicks off after 10 o'clock on the weekend. So you'll have someone wants to meet up, or, obviously COVID times changes that, but I'm thinking back to when we were living in the normal kind of situations. But after 10 o'clock, that's when other stuff starts kicking in, or football is on, or the GAA is on, or whatever it is, or we're going for lunch, we're going for this. That all has a factor in your mental want to even run that evening, because as we have said, and Dara asked it, we don't enjoy running. It's not something we enjoy doing. But when you're trying to choose, do I stay and have a couple of beers with the guys and watch the end of the Ireland rugby, or do I go run for 2 hours? It's a very difficult one to do. But when you free it up in the morning, mentally you've got the whole day then, and it's in the bag. It's done.
100%. I think working at a gym, we have like, I be speaking to both different sides of the argument. I've talked to people 6 a.m. in the morning saying, if I don't get it in now, I won't get it in your time. Some people going, how, like in 8 o'clock in the evening, how are you up at 6 a.m. in the morning to get that workout in? And they feel like they've got full of energy and stuff in the evening. I'm going to take a little detour in this answer before I answer it. Back in secondary school, I don't remember a lot about secondary school. On a Wednesday, we would have a half day. And by the time I'd get home around 2 o'clock, I would always be dying to go to the toilet, right? If I was in school the rest of the week, if I was in school, there's a mad delay here, so you laugh like 4 or 5 seconds after that. But anyway, if I was in school like during the rest of the week, I wouldn't need to go to the toilet. But on Wednesday, by the time I turn the corner and see the house, I am like dying to go. And it didn't kick that bad today. Now, that may sound like a really random story, but the reason I bring it up is that I fully believe that it's just habit and routine. Like, I go in, go to the toilet, and that's it. And it happened to be always that Wednesday around that same time. And I think with running, if you have to fit it in on that evening schedule for whatever reason, just accept the first few runs are going to suck because you're not used to it, like you said, with the food. You don't know when to have your dinner before or after, because you're not used to compared to what you do in the morning time. But over time, you will get used to whatever way you're eating before that, and you just naturally adjust to it. But just accept your first few runs are not going to be that good, but afterwards they will get better. And it's the exact same thing, the morning runs. Now, I don't recommend going 5 early mornings a week. If you never do early morning runs, maybe do 1 or 2. I know every Wednesday morning, for example, I'm going to get up and get that running and build that consistency. And you'd be like, first thing in the morning, I haven't eaten in 8-9 hours. I have zero energy in me. There's no way I can get a run in. So just go for a light run and then slowly build it from there. Your first few runs will suck, but if you build the consistency with it, your body will just adapt and know. A training context, it's kind of like when you get a new job and you have to start off, you have to start off at 7 o'clock in the morning instead of 9 o'clock in the morning for whatever reason. There's a new job. The first week doing it is going to be absolute hell, getting used to that new routine and stuff. But then it's like, this is life now. I just have to keep doing it. So it's just consistency and keep getting at it from there.
Yeah, no, I really agree with you there in terms of the habit. Like when we go back to last year, my during the week training, like I didn't start work until 8:15. So I could get up at 7:30 and go for a run, but I just wasn't bothered. Like I just like the alarm would go off and it was too easy to snooze. Like it just wasn't.
Yeah,
I wasn't ours.
the
So
consistency
I
wasn't
got
there.
quite accustomed to having a very, I was quite good to have a very big lunch. And then I was happy to only have a small, like very small snack then before training would kick in at 5:30, and then
Yeah,
I'd do my run, probably some weights. I'd probably have a swim as well. And I'd get through training with 3 hours and then it would be dinner time. So again, that was a habit and routine that was built for me. And like when you're doing that much training in the evening, I'm like, why would I get up in the morning? Why would I split it twice? Because then I'm up earlier, then I have to eat more, I'm awake longer, I have to go to bed earlier because I'm a night owl as well. So
yeah.
even if I know I should go to bed early because I'm up earlier for the run, I still won't. I'll still be up watching something or doing something, so it's I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of habit routine. But then on the weekends, it's like something switches. It's like because I'm still awake and my body clock still waking me up at the 7:30, 8:00 anyway. So then I'm just like, I really want to get the fullness out of the day in terms of my own stuff. So I'm going to get the run out of the way at 7:30. I don't know, for whatever reason, just a weekend. It's like if I don't do it early, then I don't get to have the fun. So I just get it out of the way early.
Yeah, which also comes into habit and routine. So I think we fairly covered that question. We'll move on that one. At this rate, we might get 3 questions in the next half hour, but we'll see how we go. Next one's from Aisling. She says, how to overcome the negative voice in your head. One bad run sets me up for the next one not going well because of that critical inner voice.
Ooh, that is a good one.
Yeah.
Certain things I've done, I pick up certain things about myself, whereas I'll pick something valuable to myself. And I was like, if you stop now, then you didn't deserve to get this, or you don't deserve to do an Ironman. And then I have that fight with myself going, no, I do deserve to do it. And it's only a kilometer. And I have this little row. I was like, if you stop, you don't deserve, you're letting yourself down. And so that, I know that's a very vague kind of example of what goes on in my head with this. Everyone has a different person in their head fighting.
Yeah.
My person hates losing to me. So it's that's how I do it. Whereas I set myself up with an ultimatum. And it's like, if you fail now, you do not deserve, like, what is your goal? Do you want to do an Ironman? Yes or no? The answer is yes. Then don't stop. And I have that ultimatum with myself every time, but I pick something that I have to, my goal, and I say, if you stop now, you don't deserve to do it. But it comes with a caveat. Yeah. There is a time and a place to stop if you're injured or you're sore. Just a couple of times with my knee, regardless of what was going on, it was like, no, time up. And it's the time, the reason I'm stopping is because I want to do the Ironman. It's not, I want to be able to train tomorrow. So it does come with a caveat, but that's one thing that works for me. Sean, you might have something there as well. While I try and put words on some of the other methods.
For me, if I mess up a run or it doesn't go right or I have to stop, like you said, an injury here and there, I try and vary my training so I pick up little wins elsewhere. So I'll always like, let's say I mess up a long run. I don't hit the distance, I cramp my hamstring. I'm too tired. I just don't feel it. I know my next run's an easy run. I know the next time I'm training is also in the gym. So I might try and pick up a quick win in the gym by hitting a certain weight goal, or with split squats, or try and hit a certain amount of lunges, or try and do something on a certain amount of push-ups or chin-ups, or try and pick up little wins there, and then I'll keep switching up. So I'll always, not always, that's a bad way of putting it. I'm very hit and miss in my intervals. Some intervals I feel great, some I feel crappy. But by the time the next interval session comes around, I've already got a long run in. I've already got different training sessions in. So I'm starting to pick back up my confidence again, doing all these other things. And then I try and hit with a fresh start. If it's a case of if this is just not happening to me, I might change the route. I might change the routine up, how I approach it. I might just literally might go somewhere else or just pick somewhere different on it. If I feel like this is happening a fair bit, something's not right here, I'll try and just switch it up, pick up my wins elsewhere, pick myself back up, and then try and go out with a fresh head again. And sometimes I could do it with the intervals, and sometimes it's like, that fifth or sixth interval just got me again. I'll try and like what we've done recently, because I talked about this mess up my pacing a fair bit, and that's one of my biggest weaknesses with pacing my breathing, is that I've started incorporating more going slow to go fast. So now my whole training's taking a slightly different approach. Not rewriting my whole training, because I think there's a lot of stuff that I believe in that I like to stick to, but let's get more slower runs in there for me personally. I think if you find you're getting too many negative runs, switch up your training a little bit.
Yeah, and on that as well, I think one bad run doesn't define you. It's like one mistake in your job doesn't define how you are in your job. You have to look at your whole week, your whole month, your whole year. So if you have a bad day, it's not a bad day, but it's a bad day at the end of a long week full of training where you probably didn't get the best night's sleep in one of the night. You know, you can, if it is the case that you're feeling down about it, assess how your week has gone, assess how your sleep has been, assess how your eating has been. Do you know? So if you haven't been eating right and then you feel like you're sluggish, well then tomorrow let's start with, okay, well, you know, the next target is to get the eating back in order and the training will come afterwards. And let's just keep getting into the ring. That's all you have to do in terms of the training. Try and fix the other things, your sleep and food, and then your training will start to come back on. So that's one thing I like to do. I like to think of it like a bank account as well. So how did my training go over the week? Same as the calories. You know, like I trained 5 days this week. Well, week was a success. Run? No. Week? Yes. Next week, Monday, never miss it. Let's go again. And that's the consistency that overall keeps your motivation high.
100%. Couldn't agree more. We'll move on from there. Our next two questions are actually, they came in close to each other. So I'm assuming they know each other, something's going on there. But Connor wrote, same Connor we talked about at the start of the podcast, goes, let's hear some content on micronutrients, what they contribute to our bodies. And then we had one from Stapleton. I shouldn't read Instagram names, but anyway, I'll butcher half of them. Nutrition focusing on micronutrients. So yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. They do know each other. But
do they? They were talking to each other about it.
It's very similar. They think I have better things to talk about each other back holiday Monday. But I'm gonna go over this very, very quickly in terms of we're not nutritionists, so we can't really go in depth in this, and it will be a whole entire podcast on its own. We will say we'll be looking at getting someone who definitely have the experience and knowledge more than the both of us on a later episode to talk about exactly that. So some people might be saying, hey, you know, Sean, Eric, what exactly are micronutrients? So basically we have your macronutrients, your proteins, your carbs, your fats. So your micronutrients are more so your vitamins and minerals, I suppose, and they can be broken down really into your 4 categories from there. So you've got your water-soluble vitamins. They are pretty much like your B vitamins, and then your more fat-soluble vitamins, you know, your vitamin A, your vitamin Ds, your vitamin E's, your vitamin K's, different things like that. You know, we obviously, you know, not obviously, but, you know, vitamin D, good for like immune function and bone growth, stuff like that. Vitamin A, I suppose, proper vision.
And mood, apparently.
And then after that, then you've got your macro minerals. So they're kind of like your calcium, magnesium, sodium. Magnesium seems a great one for runners to stop you from cramping up, especially coming to the summertime, having a bit of more magnesium and stuff in that. But like I said, we'll get more from that from nutritionists in later on podcast. So I really don't want to go too much detail on that one. And then the last one is trace minerals. So that's your manganese, your copper, your zinc. Like they say zinc is like good for like normal growth, immune function, that kind of thing. So they are your different types. So we can't really go too much in depth in that. Like I said, like my knowledge of nutrition is not that. It's not that deep, which is actually, I signed up there recently to a nutrition course from, BioLane. So at BioLane on Instagram. So anyone who's on Instagram or is very interested in nutrition probably knows him. He pretty much takes a no BS approach to it. He's been on Joe Rogan before. Speaking of Joe Rogan, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, I'd follow her on Instagram. She's very good. And then the anti-diet dietitian, I think she's at anti-diet_dietitian on Instagram. She does great infographics on that and really just breaks it down and stuff. So I would look into those 3, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks we will have someone on the podcast who'll be able to address that a little bit more.
Well, and in terms of what I see, my sister and me, we've been doing the MyFitnessPal. We've been tracking all our foods. But But she has gotten really focused into that, because in each day it kind of says, well, how much vitamin A should you have had, how much vitamin B and all that. So she's she's game focused. So she's really focused on, I need to get my 100% vitamin C. I need to get my 100%. And if she doesn't get the 100%, she is insane about it. She's real aim about it. So, like, obviously, your daily recommended allowances is, you know, if people look up what's your daily recommended allowance, and that's pretty much what she's operating with. But yeah, I can imagine that it would only bring benefits. And I suppose for me as well, the vitamin D supplements is the only thing I really take, obviously, because we don't get a lot of sunlight, and when we do have it, we're working all the time, we're indoors all the time. Whether it's placebo or not, but I did notice in general, just mood was better. You know, that feel good feeling. And taking the supplements for over the course of 2-3 months, be it placebo, be it whatever, did I feel good? Absolutely. So it's, you know, there's good and bad to everything. But I suppose if you're taking it as part of a balanced diet and everything in moderation, I suppose is always the key thing. It is good. But as you said, Sean, we do have someone lined up that's gonna really instill us with a lot of knowledge on that one.
100%. Going from something we don't know a whole lot about to something, unfortunately, me and you know quite a bit about, we share together. We got a question from Fitness, who was a guest on the podcast back last year, some stage. I think it was last May or June. And his question is, list the top 5 worst runs you have ever had and why. Eric, I know you're number one because it's my number one.
I don't have 5. Okay, of 2. Because when I think of 5, like people we just spoke about, bad runs. I've had bad runs, but they haven't lasted in the memory. Do you know, like, I've had bad days, but I've just got on with it, and they all kind of blend into each other. Like one with an injury, it was just annoying, but I don't remember the time, the date. But the marathon we did was the worst run of my life. I hated it. I hated every second of it. I never want to relive it. So much so, I didn't tell people I did a marathon. That's how much I hated that day. It was disgusting. If people asked me had I done a marathon, I was like, no, I didn't do a marathon. I went for a walk around Dublin for 5 hours and it nearly killed me, mate. That was the worst run of my life. I despise that. The second worst one was when I was a bigger man and I tried to go for a run, and I got 100 meters down the end of our road and my back was seizing. I was in a jogger. I was back into you in the house after about 65 seconds after leaving it, and I was like, that was the worst experience of my life, and it just felt like shit. So I've had 2 that, when you ask me what's the worst run, number 1, that marathon, that was, I remember me and you, we were kind of, we were getting at each other then, but I remember seeing mile 18 on the big signpost. I'll never forget this feeling. I just seen the big 18 on the signpost. I was like, mother of God, how are we going to get to the end? I didn't understand how. I was like, this is ridiculous. I was like, this is stupid. But anyway, that was the worst one.
I always knew we were going to finish that, but I knew, like, eventually we'd walk and we'd get it done. We'd be too stubborn, and you know, we messed each other up at different paces and we just weren't prepared for it. And the fact that I told everyone I was going to do it, I was kind of like, but then, like, you know, you fell, it just happens. And I have a lot of intervals. I had a recent 5K PB I failed. I don't consider failed runs bad run. It's, you know, it's there today or it's not there today. I've put in the work, I either didn't. But the 2 of them, number 1 would be that marathon as well. Just a very, very bad day at the office, and something that I knew. I remember seeing at the 30K point, I remember saying, you know what, I'm going to get this right next year, and pushing towards that and the goal. No, it was a long 365 days that I got to run a double marathon, then to try to right that wrong in my mind. The second one, actually, I ran with you, and we did the night run in April 2018, I want to say. And my runs were going good. I was good. Yeah. You hadn't done much running. Also, we were running. We were going at 4:40 pace, which is fast for me, and was fast for me at the time. I remember it was around kilometer, probably 3 or 4. We're passing the Bord Gáis, and I was like, Eric, my calf is going to go. I could feel it. And we're like, you know, just try and stick with it. And then hold up, my hands up, my fault. I should have went, my calf's definitely going to go. I'm going to stop. I didn't. The ego kicked in. I was like, well, just keep on going, see what happens. So I kept on pushing a little bit. And then by kilometer 7 or 8, the calf went. And I had to pull in. I was like, Eric, go ahead, finish. And you finished that, and the calf went. And I was like, damn it, I saw people run past me. This is just across the bridge, pretty much where the toll bridge is for the 2.3 arena. And I was like, you know what, I just got to keep going. I hobbled the rest of it, and I swear to God, it's on my Nike run. From 9 to 10 was my fastest kilometer out of a 9, and I wasn't running. I was on one foot, so much so that I damaged the other leg because I was just pretty much on the ankle, just kept on going and going and going. So my calf was wrecked, my ankle, the other side was wrecked, and I couldn't do anything for 8-10 weeks. And I was just very frustrating because I'd signed up to the Cork Marathon in the June of that year, the bank holiday, and I was just frustrated and annoyed at myself, not because of the injury, because I pushed myself. No one was going to get the injury, and no pain, no gain. The stupid ego and seeing people going by and not just saying, you know what, not your day. Let's get another day into it instead of pushing on for 2-3. And losing 2-3 months over something that could have been like, you know what, just say not your day. Slow it down. If I slowed down before, it would have been all right.
I remember another bad day you had.
Great.
We were in the build-up to that marathon. We went down to Kilkenny and we did the medieval half, and we hit mile 10, and the rest of the half marathon is pretty much uphill. And that should have been the first indicator that me and you were going to have a bad day on the marathon, because I remember your legs started getting very heavy on you on that day, and the last 3 miles, we were under pressure.
We were under pressure for that. And the other reason I think we were was, I've talked with this recently actually on an Instagram post, was psychological. Why? Because we had never reached that barrier. We didn't know what it was like to run 2 hours. I think that marathon we did at 155, a half marathon, 155. And I didn't know what it was like to run for an hour 55, because I used to run for an hour, and no matter what album I was listening to, I'd be looking at the watch every couple of seconds and seeing how fast and slow my pace was going and how close I was to the finish. And I'd be like, I used to run on a Saturday morning in the park. I'd be like, right, by 10:30, I have to be back there to teach a class. So, I get like 10:15, I could finish. I look, it's only 10 to 10. I have to keep going for 25 minutes. It was all negative. So when it came to that day and I hit mile 10 and I was in pretty much uncharted territory, and I was thinking, swim. I finished it, but I pretty much, sunk to the finish line on that one. And it was a great day at the office, but it was nowhere near as bad as it was 6 weeks later, because I did feck all training. I think I went to America as well. I did go to America, actually.
It was like
awful time.
It was like the film The Other Guys.
Yes. Aim for the bushes.
Top of the roof. You think what I'm thinking, aim for the bushes. Just pure ego.
Yeah, we crashed and burned.
I'll let you be the rock on that one anyway.
I'll take it.
Yeah, so they were ones that stand out for me. And I have to say, I had another bad one, but it was a duathlon, and it was just after the marathon, the good marathon we did, but my knee was goosed. And I went to do Sea to Summit, and I got in about 2K into the race. Yeah. And I was like, oh no. I was like, this is not good, my knee. And I was running beside Ozzy. We were cruising at we were at a 4:03 pace through the first kilometer, a 4:02 through the second. And we turned this corner through 2K, and we came up this hill, and I just said it to him. I was like, big dog, I was like, I am in serious trouble here. And I could just feel the knee starting to twinge, and it's only a matter of time then before it gets worse. I was like, look, I'm going to just tailor off here. I'll see you on the bike. So I slowed down a little bit, let him go ahead on the bike. By the time I hit the 4K, coming to the transition area, the knee was goosed. So anyway, stubborn, should have pulled out of the race, didn't. Got on the bike, cycled to the base of Crowpatrick, hobbled up Crowpatrick. Coming down Crowpatrick took longer than going up because the knee couldn't support the weight coming down. Jeez. Should have pulled out of the race, didn't. Continued on the 32-kilometer cycle course, and I was dead. I was actually cycling that slow. I was feeling mildly hypothermic on the bike. I was freezing. I was actually shaking with the cold because I was cycling that slow. Got back to the transition area, 4 kilometers left to run. Should have walked it, didn't. So I ran all the way back. When I crossed the finish line, I was as white as a ghost. I'd been on the course for I don't know how long. Everyone thought I was dead. And I was just in such a bad way. And the best part about it was one of the lads finished behind me.
Fair play.
It wasn't it, but yeah, I just remember it is a low when you're carrying an injury, because you don't enjoy it then. It is just pure suffering then, and stupidly you just do more damage to yourself. But they're some of the bad ones I remember.
Well, thanks Fitness Goose for that, because we feel terrible right now looking at the back of the bad runs. Well, I just want to wrap that up by saying I don't think a failed run's a bad run. I think I talked about that already, but there are just some bad days at the office from the two of us there. We didn't get the full 5 each, but I think we got enough. We got 5 between us there in that one. Next question from Shane S0468. You mentioned breathing techniques and foot placement. Can you explain what these are? 100%. I'm going to go with the foot placement just very quickly, because there's a lot of I suppose there'd be a lot of argument where you heel strike or your forestrike. Forefoot hits the ground first when you run. Like, so if you're going for a sprint, the front of your foot will naturally hit the ground. The ball of your foot will hit the ground first. You're pushing off that each and every time. As you get more towards longer distance, some people go more towards heel strike. Some will argue that that's going to mess you up. You have to go front foot strike. For myself, it's a little bit more of a heel strike the way my calves are, and because using the I was recommending to use the Hoka 1-1s, and since using them, I haven't had that much of a calf injury compared to what I was like was really bad, and they are like a rocket boat type thing. But I would change the question on the foot placement to where it lands in the ground in relation to your body, rather than if it's heel or front foot. And the reason I say that is I think the mistake a lot of people make with their run, and you can see it if you're driving through the Phoenix Park, is they'll overreach. So they're going too far forward, and when the foot hits, it's almost like acting like a braking mechanism out in front, and you're trying to get your body over that foot to go again. Whereas if you work more on your posture, tucking the hips in, core nice and tight, standing up straight, that slight forward lean, so when your foot lands, whether it's heel or front foot. I know I'm going against the likes of Christopher McDougall and Kelly Starrett on whether you heel strike, because they'd be really against that, but a lot of runners, they don't mind too much. But if your foot lands directly as close as under the center of mass you can while you're forward leaning, you're going to be able to propel yourself on forward from there. So I'd be more interested in that than whereabouts. If you always heel strike and you hear about, you should never heel strike, but you're not getting any injuries heel striking, then I wouldn't change what's working for you in that respect. If you're constantly getting injuries, or you're constantly in the forefront and you're constantly getting injuries, then that could be because of your calves, and you might have to change how you land on your foot strike from there. I was reading a research paper on this one. I know I'm kind of going on about this one. They're talking with the Vaporflies, the 4% fast over marathon distance, and they had 8 people. 10 people were heel strikes. 8 were on the front of the foot, and they said there was no significant distance between all 18 of them on whether the foot placement was hitting the ground, but they all had on average a 4% improvement, but they couldn't find any differences in that. So there doesn't seem to be studies to show which one is better. I think it really does depend on the person whether you get injured or not.
Yeah, I think I think the injuries is one, and there is a photograph of me in one of my early triathlons, and I'm wrecked. I'm tired by the time I'm getting to run. And I'm trying to overreach with my legs to compensate. I'm using the length of my legs to compensate for the tiredness for pace. And you can just see the heel right out in front of me. And it's slightly terrifying. I think you actually took the video of it, and it's a still from the video.
Yeah.
But since then, and when we tell people be conscious of your foot placement and your breathing, since then I'm conscious to just move my head forward about an inch. And that little lean corrects all of it. It brings the feet underneath the body, and it feels awkward. First 5 runs was like, this isn't natural, and as soon as you get tired, you want to stop doing it. You want to resort back to the zero level, to the base level. But after a while, then you actually start to teach the brain that this is your new normal. Like it's it has made a difference. Not so much in pace. Never noticed a difference in the pace, but in that longevity in the bones and the muscles. I've definitely noticed a bit of less injuries, I suppose. In terms of the breathing, I suppose with the breathing, we'd probably see it more so with the heart rate training. So it'd be like anything. It's, if you're breathing hard, are you really taking in a full breath? In a sprint, you can understand it because it's going to stop in a certain time. But when I run with people and they're under pressure, they even give up on their breathing because they just pant like a dog, and they're just, and that's exactly what you're doing. But if you have the courage, and it does take a little bit of courage to take a deep breath, especially when you're that tired. You can actually start to bring the heart rate down a little bit. You can start to calm the body. And a little method it was actually Tom Dixon that brought me on a run once, and I was doing that. And he was like, try and breathe on every third or fourth. He said every fourth step. So every time your right foot hit the ground, count, 1, 2, 3, 4, breathe in for that length of time, then breathe out for the same length of time. For me, that rhythm didn't work for me. I'm every 3. So I breathe in and out, and I keep that 3 rhythm. What does it do mentally? I'm just focusing on my breathing. So a kilometer will actually click, and I wouldn't have even heard the watch because I'm just focusing on the breathing and watching my heart rate. And if I see the heart rate spiking, I'll really take a deep breath. I'll shake out my shoulders. I'll relax the body, and then take another deep breath and nice and loose, and then continue. And you'll see the heart rate come down by them 1 or 2 beats per minute. And it's just that tension building up. So when we say concentrate on your breathing, when you're running, it's not just to listen, are you breathing? It's to have that confidence to kind of control it. Take that deep breath, particularly like breathing into the belly as opposed to just the lungs as well, really letting the diaphragm come out and then emptying it out, getting the oxygen into the muscles, especially when you're looking at the endurance game. And it's the same with cycling as well. And I know from the cycling, people think it's weird to breathe into your belly, particularly when you're in an aerodynamic position. So you're kind of folded onto your legs, and you're feeling your belly hitting your legs as you're breathing in because you're taking this deep breath, and then you're trying to push your belly to your spine type thing to exhale everything out. But just to make sure you're taking in as full a breath as you can, it'll make a big difference to your endurance game.
I think you hit the nail on the head when what your focus there was the three steps for breathing in, but also the 3 steps for breathing out, because a lot of people are like, I gotta get oxygen, but they're not thinking about getting all that excess CO2 out, because that's what's building up in the muscles right there. It's not that you need the oxygen. You most of your breath coming in is oxygen, and it's very little of CO2. It's like 0.04% or something like that. But the CO2 is building up in the muscles, and then you're trying to get rid of that excess waste. So if you're breathing in for those 3 seconds, which is great, exactly what you're doing, but you have to breathe out for those 2-3 seconds as well, because, 2-3 steps, sorry. Otherwise, if you're just constantly breathing, you're getting all oxygen in, but you're not getting rid of that excess CO2 on that one. So, like Eric said, slow it down, deep breaths in and out, and over time, you can start building up the pace from there. We'll move on to the next question. And you said, actually, this one's directly at you there. One of them was, same person asked a couple of questions. He said, versus a joke question. It was like, do a review of drinking with Americans versus Irish people.
Any differences in drinking with Americans to Irish? Different. I drink with one. And I have to say, he was disgusting with the amount of alcohol he put away. The difference is, though, Irish people will drink all day, whereas Americans will drink for a few hours, and they will drink a large quantity in those few hours, and then it's different. Yeah, it's just, we're more of a session nation. They're just more of we have a certain amount of time to party here, so let's do that. So I'd say that's the difference. We definitely. Not that I like to brag about it, but we definitely showed we were Irish over there anyway. It was different.
I'm a lightweight, so I won't even get involved in that conversation. It's a serious question, though. I think this is something we're going to answer in a very, very soon episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. Is, on a serious note, TrainerRoad review, just for cycling or doing the suggested run sessions too?
So TrainerRoad is one I have. And the thing about TrainerRoad is, so most people who are purchasing TrainerRoad are usually looking at Zwift as well.
What is TrainerRoad? What's Zwift?
So there are 2 products that are there for cycling. They're mostly for cycling. And it's when you buy a turbo trainer or an electric trainer where you connect your bike into, you're following along on your iPad, your screen, or your laptop, and you're following the training plan. So as it hits 5 minutes, your intensity has to increase to a certain level. And it's all based around your watts or your the watts that you produce. Like it's an FTP is what it's called. So you're trying to develop your watt output, be it through you want to do it through sprinting, or you want to do it for endurance, and you're trying to develop it and increase what's called your FTP. So that's the basis of what the turbo trainers and these online programs are doing. And obviously, because you're on an electric trainer, you're monitoring your RPM as well, so you're able to see your cadence. So for a certain cadence, what kind of watts are we getting when we're going uphill? You can start to dive down into the numbers of cycling. Both programs talk about the same things. And I had a good look into this before I went and picked one. And I've gone with one. And I went with TrainerRoad. So I'm following along on TrainerRoad and I'm doing the workouts. I actually made a mess of my initial test. It's your initial test for your FTP. And I was doing my first week or two. And even though I said it and I was saying to you, I was like, training's going fine. And I was trusting in the system, but I actually made a mess of the test. So it was way too easy for the level I should be at. Like my heart rate was only in the 90s to 100. And each training session I was going, so you can change the intensity you do a training session. So it starts at training intensity 100%. I was going to 130% to feel like I was doing a workout. So that was the first trigger for something that was wrong with me. Is it a good routine? Yes, I really do think so. The basis behind the TrainerRoad model is train tomorrow. So you don't train so hard today that you can't train tomorrow. And we talked about this when Aaron went to doing his intervals. So you're trying to operate for most of your training sessions just below your FTP line, which is the level where you're working your moderately hard level of watt output. So trying to operate below that. So you're never working at what's near your max. You're just still operating, and it's for an endurance time. And then they add in certain runs for that. For me, I don't think there is at the start. See, again, I've set a program for myself for 8 months, and I'm in the first month. And it starts off low. So it starts off for the first 2 months. It's this low intensity stuff. It's teaching you. So when you're on TrainerRoad as well, you're cycling away, and it does drills. So it asks you to take out your left foot, only pedal with your right foot, and trying to have a continuous cycle with just your right leg. And it's talking about kicking your toe forward, pulling your heel back, driving the knee up, down, trying to get that normal, cadence range where you're equal power through the full revolution. And it is humbling. It is so difficult, but it's stuff I never knew that was wrong with my cycling. Now, TrainerRoad is not fancy. You are sitting looking at a screen with stats. You're looking at RPM, watts, interval times, elapsed time, and you're looking at what's coming next in the training. And text is rolled up along the bottom. So the text along the bottom is talking about your dog must have seen a bike there, Sean.
I'm trying to put the thing on mute, but anyway.
The text along the bottom is your coach, so it's coaching you away. So that's one element, and I don't get bored. I do enough thinking while I'm working away on the bike, so I enjoy the stats of it. But other people are looking at Zwift, and Zwift is more of a computer game with a bike where you can upgrade your bike if you get a certain amount of points. You can cycle around France, so you're watching a screen move. You go up a hill, the resistance changes. You can join in and do races. You can do training plans. The reason, again, I chose TrainerRoad over Zwift was because I could do a full Ironman training program through TrainerRoad. I could only do an Olympic triathlon plan through Zwift. So there was little things I wanted to do. But in terms of the plan so far, I think it's brilliant. I need to do a reassessment of my test and actually put myself into a proper level. Gotcha. But I think the training plans are actually very good to follow. They include the brick sessions and stuff. And I have noticed my cycling, even after the first 2 weeks, improved massively. Whether that I still continue to show the same improvements over the next 2, probably not, but definitely in terms of how I cycle, understanding what I'm doing, even certain things like watching my knees, because I'm not worrying about the road in front of me. I'm watching my knees. Are they coming up and down straight, or are they starting to buckle out as the watts get heavier, and starting to focus on the muscles? Because the more you look at your knee, it will actually go up and down straight if you look at it. It's when you take your mind off it, does it stay doing that? So there's certain exercises and stuff you can do if you're watching each side. And that is the beauty of the indoor training. So you can develop the mechanics of the cycling. The training plan is great to follow because you don't have to think about it. The hardest bit of it is getting on the bike. Once you're on the bike, it's amazing. And like that, the runs and stuff. The runs are really good. They're not as structured as you would get a run on a Garmin or or a run, you kind of have to look after yourself in terms of run. It just says run 40 minutes with a few stride repeats. Whereas I like looking at my heart rate. I like going, you know what, I actually want to do intervals today because of the benefits of intervals on the shorter game as well as the long game. So in terms of the running and the swimming, great plan to follow, fantastic plan to follow. It just comes down to what suits you.
Oh, but yeah, it sounds something like that. Well, I have a principle in the gym would be like, leave 1 or 2 reps in the tank when you're going for your main heavy lift, so you're not completely burning yourself out, so you're able to get back at it again for the next session. Guys, we've got 2 more questions and then we'll wrap up this episode of the podcast. Next one's from Bobby McCauley 87. When to taper off and peaking for race/marathon too soon?
Good man, Bobby.
I'm going to struggle with this one. Main reason is the 3-4 marathons I've done, my training plan never goes together. So they always say taper off, 2-3 weeks before marathon. But I've never got enough consistency in my training for whatever reason. Life gets in the way, different holidays and everything else going on, that I need to push closer to the 7 days even before that last before the marathon, where I need to back off a little bit for that final week. So I'm not... Pretty much like we just talked about a second ago, we're at that point where I need to really recover before my next session. I think if you're 10 days before it, you can kind of level off from there regardless, because you're not going to peak up too much, especially if you've got, X amount of weeks in the tank before then. I would also say whatever program you're on, trust the program. Trust it. Get and believe in the program that's going to work for you. Eric, how would you feel? Because you're actually... I suppose not for yourself to brag it, blow smoke up your ass. You've got the faster marathon on this one. How did you and Ozzy did
yeah, well, in terms of tapering off, I think for a lot of people, for me, I operate on, I'm definitely confident in the runs I've done. So I'd say about 2 weeks before I started my long runs, I think about 3 weeks out, I would start to come down in the long runs. So it would it'd no longer be the 27K. It would then turn into the 22K, but I would still be doing the long runs coming down. But I think then part of it comes down to personal belief and confidence. So half of me, if I tapered off too early, I'd be like, can I still run 30K? I don't know. I haven't done as much in the last little while, So half of me kind of wants to just know I can do it, so I can do it again. So if I did it last Sunday, I can do it this Sunday, and so I think part of it comes down to everyone's individual on how they do it.
100%.
For me, about 3 weeks before, I will start to think about shortening them longer runs. The 3 hour run turns into a 2.5 hour, turns into a 2 hour. The only difference I would change as I get shorter in times is the pace. I'd go above. So because I'm not running as long, I will go above the pace I want to run for my marathon. So it's not necessarily tapering off in terms of, because the intensity is higher for me, but the length of time on the joints is lessening down. So what I take then is the confidence. When I start that marathon, I was like, sure, I did 15 kilometers 30 seconds quicker than this. So it's motivation for understanding I can do it quicker. And if I'm comfortable over 20K, 30 seconds quicker, then 30 seconds slower, I'm definitely going to get this marathon. So about 3 weeks, I start to bring back the long runs, maybe 4, there. And again, it depends on how you are in your training. Are you injured? Are you sore? How are you feeling? How's your confidence? So, around the 3 to 4 week mark, started bringing it down in terms of the long run, trading the time for speed as it come towards the end. And then in the last week, it's very much, rest up, recover, eat. That's the main thing for the last week, with a couple of easy runs, 40-minute here, an hour here, and then on the Sunday, then you're ready to go. Well stretched and plenty of stretching. And if you haven't practiced with food in marathons before that, it's not the time to start practicing when you're tapering off either. You need to start. And it's one thing we talk about food. That tapering off period is really, really important in the routine building for your race morning. So if you plan on that Sunday morning, your Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you need to start eating the meals that you will eat on that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and get the body used to it like that, the habit and routine. And it will make that extra 5-10% difference on the day.
100%. Yeah, I really not much else to add to that one. Last question, because we're going a bit long on this podcast. We'll get this last one in from our handstand coach, and we'll be talking more about that in the next couple of weeks. Maria _H Fitness PT. What are the key things to stay consistent with your training? Your own opinions. I'm going to answer this one. I'm going to give a quick little story in this one, because I think the problem with people staying consistent with training is I genuinely believe people pick goals that they think would be good to achieve, but based on what other people's opinions are. For example, they might say, I'd like to lose a few pounds, but they haven't got that. They haven't been specific on it, and they don't know exactly why they want to do that. Or I want to get fitter. It's like, well, what do you mean you want to get fitter? What is the specific goal there? What are you aiming for? So like we talked about earlier about, messing up that first marathon. Well, I knew I was more consistent in my second marathon because I knew the goal there. I knew what it was like to fail. I knew what it's like to keep going from there. And the other thing, me and you have go back 10 years in this one, is I always was like, I need to learn how to swim. I like to learn how to swim, and that'd be it. I might go in the pool a couple of times and I might do a little bit here or there. And for 2-3 weeks, I wouldn't be able to do much more than that. And then I did a Hell and Back event a couple of years ago, and would have been 2019. I think it was 2019. Yeah. It would have been 2019 actually, and then it was during the summer, and it had the big massive slides in there. You go into the water, you throw the life jacket. I was comfortable with the life jacket because a couple of months I did water skiing, and I fell off the water skis. The life jacket held me up, and I was grand, not a bother to me. But anyway, we go in. I wanted to get the nearest slide because basically that was at the shallowest water, just in case. So I went to get there. A couple of friends got there first. I was like, I go to the fifth one and say it mightn't be as bad. This little kid got in front of me, got to the fifth one. I was like, you little. So I had to go to the first, the deepest slide. Now, I should have just went, you know what, I'll go next time, but we still have to go to the near slide. But no, ego kicked in, and I said, I'll go to the first slide, the deepest, then we'll see how it goes. So I slid down the slide, straight into the deep end, probably around, I'd say, my feet couldn't touch the floor when I stand up straight anyway. So I was like, whoa, straight into the water. I'm like, oh God, but at least I have the life jacket. So the life jacket got me back up for a second. I was like, oh, I feel grand, not a bother. And all of a sudden, my head went right back under the water again. And I panicked because I'm like, this life jacket is supposed to keep my head over water. All of a sudden, my head is underneath water. What's going on? Panicked, didn't know what to do, started splashing everything. A couple of friends had to come over and drag me up anyway. And I pretty much shit the bed on that one. I didn't know what was going on. 2 minutes later, of course, I'm panicking as hell because I had to jump off the bridge to the second part. And I'm like, oh God, I'm literally sitting on the edge of the bridge. And there's guys half my age just doing running jumps, senton bombs, everything into the thing. And I'm literally sitting on the edge of the thing, scared for my life. It's probably like an 8-foot drop, if even that. And I'm like literally praying at everything. I slide myself off and into the water I go. And once again, head goes under, up, and I'm freezing. I can't do anything. I'm literally... It's the most helpless feeling I've ever had in my life to know that if no one is there, there's literally, I would never be able to get out of that situation. I'd be just laying there. To this, obviously not to this day, because I'd be well surely past by now. But people came over, swam me ashore, and I was like, you know what? That was a wake-up call. I need to learn how to swim. And I got swimming lessons that winter. I was doing well in my swimming lessons, and then COVID hit, and that was the end of that. But I had that goal because I had a specific reason behind why I really wanted to do it. And I think with people like, I want to, run a marathon, I want to run 5K, 10K. Like, I'd like to do that because I've seen such and such do that. Or, it sounds like something good to do, but you're not going to be committed to that unless you have a strong why behind it. So when it comes to, like, everyone can be motivated for the first week or two, but when it comes to week 3 and it's lashing rain outside, which happens all year round, and you don't want to go outside for those interval sprints, if you don't have that strong why, and my strong why is, I messed up the marathon, I need to get back at it, or, I run a running podcast, so I better be half decent at running. So that gets me out there on days I don't want to get out there. And it's having that strong why I keep going. I know I'm not going to be really good at other training things. I'm like, I'd like to be able to do like a barbell squat for X amount of weight. So I'm like, no, my back might give up. And I really don't have the interest in doing it apart from it being looking good on the gram.
Yeah, I think you've hit all the nails. I don't think I can add anything to that. It is, you have to want to do it. It's like anything. You have to want to do it. You can't just like to do something. You have to want to do it. Yeah, it's like that ultimatum as well. I said, when you give yourself some runs to start, you give yourself that ultimatum, and every time you don't want to go for the run, it's that ultimatum to go, well, you said you wanted to be an athlete. You said you wanted to be known as someone who is good at this. So people who are good at this go and do this. So go and do it. So, and that's my little add-on to it, is just that conversation you have with yourself. That's because it's yourself to talk to you out of consistency. So you need to have the right conversation with yourself and the right goals for yourself. And if you say you want to do something, then you need to act like someone that does that. A person who runs marathons goes running today. I want to be a person who runs marathons. I'm going running. I don't care what the weather is. So that's my little addition, but I think you hit all the points there.
Yeah, and that's what we keep saying, people in the running group, put yourself accountable. Let us know how you're getting on. Keep pushing towards your goals. And, if you want to put your own post up there and say, hey, these are my goals. This is what I hit in the 6 weeks. And we'll encourage and help you any way we can along the way. I did a post in that similar enough last week there, pushing towards my 10K goals. And speaking of the running group, thanks to everyone in that running group and our Instagram who contributed to our Q&A this week. Helped us out, got a lot of different content out there. It's nice to talk about something we know you guys want to hear about. So thank you very much for those questions. We will have guests on this podcast next 2-3 weeks at least. We've got a couple lined up, a couple of great guests that we are not going to tell you right now. And that sounds like, it's a cop out. You don't have guests, but I guarantee it. Next episode, we'll have a guest for you. Eric, anything to add for
you? It's going to be good. No, it's good. No, it is good. And it's been a nice episode. Thanks for everyone for the contribution.
Thanks a million, guys. That's it this week's episode of the Any Given Word Today podcast. Myself and Eric. Take care.
Bye.